preparing the live stream. Looking good. Come on, son. Do. There we are. That's, yeah. That should now say, what's this here? Okay. I've got no idea what's going on here now. What's it doing? Hang on. Yeah. Okay, so if I go to that. Boggie, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, hang on. I know what it is. I know. I know what it is. This meeting is now being live streamed. Hey, technology, hang on 1 second. We'll be with you in a moment. Right. Ah, there we go. Just bear with me. That should be Shana. Hello, my love. I hope you're keeping well. Phil Hines is here as well. Good. Boggie, what are you doing? Stop messing around with all the stuff. You always do messing around with stuff. You've got about.
I'm going to share it, but I have to come on. I'm still there in the background, but I've normally frozen up.
Yeah. No, by all means, yeah, share it to your page.
I'm still here. I may be frozen, but I'm still here. I'm just going to quickly go and do. Let's find me. There we go. And
you're like the Scarlet Pimpernel. You've got that many channels and everything. I've got no idea what you're up to.
Yeah, nor does anybody else, and that's how I like it. So
it's either quantum consciousness or schizophrenia or both.
Probably both. I'm probably a little bit of both. Well, actually, a little bit of all of them, because quantum is everywhere, all at the same time, all at once. So so the answer is yes.
So here's the plan. There isn't a plan, but some people have commented on all this stuff that you do, like this Qigong stuff and all this diamond dog or whatever it's called. So, and
I like that. That reminds me of something I did many years ago. But anyway, carry on.
Well, we're still not past the watershed yet. So if you can keep this clean, that'll be fine. So
no, it's dodgy, but no.
All right. So this clubber you've got on, that looks like sort of like a martial art type sort of clubber. Have you lost weight, by the way? You look slim. My goodness me, that's good.
I am a former. Well, my nickname was Kung Fu Panda because I liked food and I did kung fu. I still like food, but apparently not. Well, no, I work on 9 acres of land now, so I do my Tai Chi. This is actually, I can sort of do this for very quick. This is actually my healing room, and so this is my studio. When I put it over here, this is where I teach my online classes, and also there's my massage chair, and my little altar. So it's not really an altar to religion; it's more about altar to consciousness, to say hello. And there's always dragon stuff because I'm actually a dragon dog shaman and connected dragons. But then I walk out this door and I get this. Lovely. It's like very similar to your beautiful garden. I've seen this is the field of 1,000 trees, as I call it. And we live on 9 acres of land, and we do camping and glamping. We also have Airbnb, and we do weddings and whatnot, and then I do my stuff on top. So we keep I keep myself busy. Yeah. Hence why I probably lost so much weight. So yes.
Listen, it's not an advertisement, this, for Sec Cop Farm, but it can be. Yeah. You can put all your stuff up later, you know, how to get in touch and all that sort of business. So some people have asked though, what's Tai Chi all about? What's Qigong all about? What's these things all about? And I'd just like to say that from a very early age, I've practiced Kung Fu, all sorts of different styles. I've done Tai Chi, I've done Chen style Tai Chi, Yang style Tai Chi, and I spent a few years doing Falun Gong as well, you know, and what it's taught me is, and this is where I'm up to, is that there's more going on in this world than we can possibly realize. That, you know, in this so-called 3D world, this physical world, you know, that's called by the ancient Hebrews the 1% world, because there's 99% of stuff going on in the invisible dimensions. And hang on, I'll give you the chance to speak in a minute. And it's these things that are going on in the invisible dimensions that influence us and change the way we feel and change the way we think. Now, that can be done for both positive purposes, but there's also an element that can be done for nefarious purposes as well, without going into too much detail on that. But if people just realize that at this moment, there are literally billions and billions of invisible information packets going across the planet, which will affect our lives considerably, and they're called text messages, and we don't see them, but they have a very, very powerful effect on us as well, you know. And I'm a great believer. I'm a practitioner of something called energy medicine, and to me, I think that it's all like Tesla said. It's, where are you going?
I'm back.
You're a terrible person. It's all about, Tesla said, it's all about energy, frequency, and vibration. And if you start looking at that and understanding it, then you'll start to have a much more a wider perspective on what is consciousness, what is the mind, what are the various aspects of the mind, and how they can be manipulated either for harmful or healthy purposes. So in that regard, I know that you also do energy stuff like me. I'm a Reiki master, you're whatever that means, you know. We just like tune into energy, and we can use it hopefully for very positive purposes to help people, you know. And my thing, Sifu, and we call you Sifu because that means teacher, doesn't it? It means a muse, a guide, you know, whatever, you know. Like myself, I try and sort of help people to help themselves, because if you can't help yourself, then what's the point really? You know, you're just reliant on external experts all the time. So my purpose in life is to share what I've been through, share what I've learned up to this point, because I only ever feel like I'm scratching the surface of stuff, and just pass that information on. And if it works for people, all well and good. And if it doesn't, well, all well and good as well, you know, because horses for courses, different people have different opinions, different people have different tastes. My philosophy is find out what works for you. And if it gives you joy and happiness, do more of it, right? And try and do less of the stuff that you don't enjoy. Boggie, sorry I went on there a bit, you know, but over to you, old boy.
You know what, with our conversations, and the funny thing is that we have conversations exactly the same off air as we do on air. It's the same with us. But there's 20 different things you freaking come up with that I've got something for that. And so it's like, that's why it's so funny. So firstly, and I'm going to actually do it, well, I'm probably going to do it different to what normal people have heard, like, you know, what is Qigong and Tai Chi? So Qigong, if you think of Qigong like music, then Tai Chi is a form of music. So Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. I always say Qigong is the grandfather of Tai Chi. So Qigong means energy, exercise, and breath work, and Tai Chi is actually a style of it. It's a form of it. Well, the other thing not everybody knows is that if you've heard of like Reiki or symbols, at least like the symbols, you know, like, you know, the Merkaba, the Torah field, all these different energy like symbols, and you know, certain ones mean things to different people. We get energy off them. Well, Qigong is like a 5D representation of a symbol. You know, you're actually making the symbol with your body. So when you're doing these movements, you're literally creating this energy, this, or like think of music. You're literally creating the music with your body. So, you know, I think a little bit like dance. You see people dance, and oh, that's so beautiful. It's the same with qigong, but the essence of qigong is that it will create what you need. So it builds energy for different things. Now, something I've said, I mean, so a lot of the time people know that qigong helps you heal. It can help your body. And the ancient culture, illness was quite simply stillness or stagnation. Is that if you became stagnant physically, emotionally, or energetically / spiritually, that would become a blockage within the mind, the body, or the spirit. So because we have all three, the mind, or when I use mind, I mean emotions, your emotional mind, then you have the spiritual or conscious 40 mind, the 40 mind, and then you have the physical mind or body. And so it's the whole idea is that there's actually these three. And you mentioned Tesla. Tesla actually said, if you can understand anything, understand the 3, the 6, and the 9, and you will understand the universe. Well, interesting enough, 3, 6, and 9 are actually very powerful and meaningful numbers in Taoism. And in fact, numerology, or the philosophy of numbers in Taoism, each number has a certain significance and means certain things. And so the 3 has a whole list of things, but one of the things is like the 3 minds. You've got this one up here, obviously. You've got actually brain cells in your heart, and you actually can feel from the heart. And we actually talk about monkey mind or ego is actually the forebrain. Then your heart is your angel or intuition. And then the gut, the gut is like where your fight or flight can be. And that's where we have brain cells here as well. So we actually have 3 minds within our body, which can also sort of relate to the masculine, the feminine, and the sacred child, which would actually be the sacred child actually becomes the one in the middle, because that's the play, and that's where your love and expansion comes from. This is very logical, so sort of the masculine, I don't mean men or women, but the qualities of sort of the masculine qualities, very set or very doing things in a certain way, tends to be here. The female energy tends to be therefore more in the gut, and the sacred child, though some people would argue it's in the heart, but the sacred child would be the play and the expansion. And then Doc mentioned about energy and like all these text messages, all this energy, you know, like you have microwaves flying through you, you have lots of different energies flying through you. And the pineal gland, the third eye, is literally actually an eye. The pineal gland actually is an eye. There's actually an optical nerve going from the pineal gland into the brain. And back in the 90s, my teachers and myself were part of an investigation, a case study with British Medical Society, and they were looking into the pineal gland. And they had these test subjects, like, well, us, but then they had the guinea pigs. They always had to have a neutral, and they were general public. But what they found is the general public's brain in an MRI scan could actually see infrared and ultraviolet. But what they found was they don't remember. So people tend not to remember seeing or hearing that energy, or we're told, oh, you're imagining it, you know, ignore that information. You're imagining it. But when you start building up energy, you do this, you do Qigong, you do meditation, Shen-Gong, you do stretching, yoga, or Neigong, you start to connect back. You connect the 3, the 6, the 9. You start connecting back to these energies, and you start feeling these energies again. And so if you do feel these energies, or especially if you live somewhere where there's a lot of, you know, power station or a lot of electrical interference, orgonite, look up orgonite, look up stuff that, or earthing, which is another one. These are all science-based now, but connect to the earth, ground yourself in the earth. That's really freaking important. And with the energy, what's happening in the universe, because we We see here, we forget we're a tiny little rock hurtling through space, through a universe of space, and we're hurtling through a great big cosmic cloud. We have been since 2010, and we'll be in it for the next 2,000 years. And that's affecting us energetically. It's affecting us, it's affecting the planet, it's affecting the solar system. So that energy is bombarding us. And so you've got to ground, you've got to root, you've got to freaking breathe. You know, I do it sometimes. I know I talk for a lifetime, but sometimes I breathe, normally through my ears. But it's important to breathe and to ground and to root, but to listen. Not this. This is your ego, the forebrain, 60 to 90,000 thoughts. Listen to this. This man here, he talks about this a lot. But and there is a thing of going with this. Wake up in the morning, ask this or ask the universe, what do you want me to do? And listen here, not here, here. Over to you, Doc.
God, you don't have to go on. You might breathe through your ears, but you talk through your heart. Don't say that, Joseph. Lightheartedness is the key. Somebody, I've said, discovered recently that we have a sixth sense, which is almost like a psychic and extrasensory awareness, which is building now in everybody across the planet. And that's why a lot of people are freaking out, because they're becoming more sensitive to these more subtle vibrations, you know. And yes, there are astronomical, astrological changes taking place in the cosmos, which is impacting, as you say, on this tiny little rock, you know. So there are these things. And Boggie, as a biomedical scientist, I used to think that this was all bollocks, you know what I mean, until I got really ill. And I was introduced to alternative philosophies and practices. And the philosophies are great, but the practices make the difference. You know, you can have all the theories in the world, but if you don't put them into practice, nothing changes. Yeah. That's my view. You know, you can think your way out of something, but if you don't actually if you don't ground it through action, then nothing changes in your head. It just, your head, as you say, seat of stinking thinking, will say, oh, we've got that covered now because we know all about it. And that's the difference, in my view, between knowledge and wisdom. You know, wisdom is experiential learning and a felt sense and going through the whole emotional thing. So it actually becomes part of your cellular structure then as well, you know. I mean, there's so much. You mentioned the 3 ego states, and I agree with you. You know, in psychology terms, that could be likened to something called transactional analysis, you know. And I do that myself as well. I do that gut, heart, head. And it seems that most people work a gut, head, and the heart's being closed down for various reasons. And it's still being manipulated by fearful situations so that we remain in fight and flight, you know. And this is also something to do with the triune brain. Now, I'll bring a bit of science in, and the polyvagal theory, you know. So we have a reptilian part, we have a mammalian part, and then we have this cortical part up here. So posh names: reptilian brain, paleomammalian, that's the midbrain, and then we've got this neocortex or you know. So what tends to happen is we go from reptilian to head, and we miss out this bit where we sense deeply what needs to be done next. And I'm trying to help people to say to them, fear blocks. And you mentioned something very, very important in my view. Now, fear, it blocks and it stops the free flow of vital energy through all our organs. And that, to me, is what causes disease. Because where the obstruction is, there's a high pressure point there that lets go of all free radicals, and they start to bombard the cells in that area. Now, cells are living things as well. They have their own innate, I'm really on one tonight, but they've got their own innate intelligence. And the cell will say, hang on, this is really happening to me a lot now. I'm going to have to change to protect myself. So it's not maladaptive as the cell goes. It's an adaptation to protect itself. However, because it becomes stronger than the cells in the surrounding tissue, it starts to move about a bit. Now, people might want to understand this, because cancer, in my view, starts off with an irritation and an irritability and a disease in certain stem lines, right? So I don't think that we have to fight cancer. I think that we have to understand it And we have to then redirect and de-obstruct those areas so that the healing energy can get through. Now, what I'm saying might be controversial for people who've got a medical inclination, but if they could just be open-minded enough to listen to what's being said, I think that they glean a lot more information from this. Because, Boggie, I know from my heart that what I'm saying has got a very, very large evidence base behind it, really. But because there's not been any studies done on it, because it's really involving what medicine calls woo-woo, right? Then, you know, and this is the difficulty. But what's actually happening now is medical physics and medical physics technicians now are starting to realize the diagnostic potential of energy, but also the therapeutic use of energy techniques as well. I've got no idea what I just said there, but it sounded really good. I'll play this back to myself and make myself feel good, like, good grief, Dr. Joe. Right, you're definitely on one. Over to you, Boggie, what I've just said.
Yeah, you know, well, so I've always loved, you know, I've always been, or a lot of people think I'm very spiritual, but I love science. I do love science. I love quantum physics, and I love epigenetics, which is, you know, going into like the medical, like science. And the interesting thing, you know, when I started, I learned the spiritual stuff, the Taoism first, and like the dragon dog shaman, and which is like a style of Taoist. And Taoist just means the way, the path. It's not really a religion. The West have sort of tried to make it, oh, it's a religion, and it's like, it's not. It's more of a philosophy, and even Star Wars was based on it. But there's an interesting thing. When I studied this and then started to study quantum physics, I started finding all these similarities, you know, like that even there's a physicist slightly off to the side, but there's a physicist called Nissan Harriman. And he, since the 90s, he was saying that the evidence was showing that the sun isn't nuclear like we're trying to teach in schools, that it's more electric based. But he was saying that the evidence is showing there's a black hole in the center of our sun and every star. Now, if you go back into ancient knowledge, they talked about the stargates. They talked about the black hole that, you know, that portals that things came from. And in Taoism and in Dragon Dog, they call it Wu Qi Dao, which means two spheres working against each other, but in the same space. And one creates unlimited light, and one creates a doorway, a portal, and they call it the Wu Qi Dao. And they would say that the sun and every star in the sky was a Wu Qi Dao. And you have Nissan Harriman, this physicist. Now, originally, people, you know, would say, oh, you know, other scientists would say, oh, you know, there's no evidence. But the evidence kept building up more and more and more until they got no choice. They had to start actually listening to him. And it's the same with the energy and epigenetics and this whole idea of that actually we're far more energetic than we realize. I mean, when you got in quantum physics, it was only just a few years ago that scientists were saying, well, we can't explain it, but the maths say that the universe is conscious and it talks to you. You know, why isn't this all over the news? Why isn't this, you know, being, you know, shown? But then I know already that back in the 70s, about 74, the quantum field, or the field, connected the 99.999% empty space in an atom. It's not actually empty. It's called the quantum field. And the quantum field connects every atom with every other atom. But that unofficially proved reincarnation. It proved energy, chi, it proved telekinesis, it proved ESP, sorry. And it proved so many different things. But again, no, we don't want to talk about that. We don't, because it will change everything, you know, is that everybody's viewpoint. A lot of the time people suffer from depression and loneliness and this disconnection because we feel we've been taught by a certain science that we're disconnected. But when you actually look into science, that is so much not true, that, you know, we are far more connected to ourselves, to each other, to the universe than we've been led to believe. And it's one of the things I'm really passionate about. Oh, woo woo, there's no evidence. There's freaking tons of evidence. Well, it depends what you're talking about, but there's freaking tons of evidence that chi exists. There's freaking tons of evidence that the different energy channels exist. There's freaking tons of evidence showing that you and me can bond, can connect, not just through this, but through this, and be 1,000 miles away from each other and still have that connection. The evidence is there. We've got to stop looking at there's a whole range of books, and they're telling you to ignore the set over here. These ones, don't look at those ones. Don't read those ones. And it's like, why? Because it's information that disturbs their flow. And who are they? I don't know. Somebody out there, but a lot of certain, not this fine chap, but there are certain academics out there who are very scared about certain information that's coming more and more into at the forefront, because it contradicts everything they want to focus on. And it's, for me, it's because I'm a bit of a troublemaker. I never realized I was a troublemaker until much later in life. I was a quiet child. Not anymore, Sonny. But the whole idea is that I'm into revolutions, but with love. So revolution is actually evolution. It's about growing and changing, and it's time to actually realize how we think and feel affects who we are, but also affects everybody else. Over to you, Doc.
Marvelous. All I can say is everything that you just said there, I totally and utterly agree with. And yes, the old traditional authorities and the standards are falling apart now. And there's a great big disintegration going on with all the stuff that was set in stone in the past, because the stones are being blasted to pieces now, and there's a whole big thing. I mean, I call this, thinking about this, all this stuff, I call it contemplation. I call it that we need to contemplate more, because quantum entanglements, and I say, people say to me, what do you do? And I say, well, I'm a quantum disentangler, really. Because I see it, string theory and all this sort of business and all these superpositions that they talk about. I think that through meditation, the deeper you go, the higher you get, the more that you can look down on things and see things happening, almost like predicting the future or getting a sense of the best way to navigate through what we're going, So I honestly do see a complete and utter disintegration in a mathematical way, where all the bits are having to fall apart to be restructured in a new way. But there's no guidance anymore. There's no set pattern to lock onto. So we're just having to feel our way through. And if we can open our hearts and open our hearts and allow this deeper innate intelligence to come through and guide us, I think it will know the way and will show us, like acting upon information received, it will show us step by step, right, the next action to take. And we don't even have to think about it, because if we're being guided by something that's in this massive superposition, we can trust it. Just try it out. Boggie, what I do is I tap on my heart and I feel like the gates of my heart open up. And there's like a little sort of Yoda in there. Like, that's my guru. He's ancient and he's old, but he likes a bit of fun as well, So when I'm stuck, I go in there and I go through this elaborate thing of going down all these dark, and go into this deep cavern where there's a font, right? And he's sitting there and he says to me, all right, son, because he's like from Merseyside. Right, he said, all right, son, how are you getting on? Well, to be honest with you, Guru, I'm having a bit of a problem here and I don't know what to do. Well, tell me about it. Okay, I'm not going to exactly tell you what to do, but I'm going to show you some options here. Which one do you feel that you'd like to take on board? Okay, that one. Right, go on then. Go and try that. See how you get on and report back. And Boggie, people might think I'm joking here, but that's the way I live my life now, because I feel like an emergence of an urgency. The urgency comes from within me, you know what I mean? So emergency, Ward 10. So that's how I live my life now. I never used to. What I did was I'd go to a book and I'd try and learn all these new techniques and everything. And what I realized was the more thinking I was doing, the more I was actually compressing my essentialness that was trying to come out, you know. So what's happening to people now is there's like lids coming off, eons of times of compression, suppression, manipulation, all those resentment, anger. And people are starting to become angry when they've been very placid, you know. All that is a clearance. And what I'm trying to say, people, is, right, how you used to behave is changing now. We have to start looking at things in a different way. And anything that you can do to express yourself joyfully from the heart, it will almost like reset these emotions, and it will give you more power, more enthusiasm, more energy, and more vitality to create the life of your dreams. Over to you, old bean.
Thank you, old chap. Yeah, you know, that's a very important point. This, you know, like when I talk about like the sacred child, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, they talk about play. They talk about, you know, how, you know, like if you have a phobia, if you have an issue with you know, something keeps coming back in your mind, something you relive, you've got to remember that this is like a cinema, but it's not a great cinema. It repeats not all the good stuff, it repeats all the crap stuff a lot of the time. This monkey mind, and all the voices, you know, certain people that said you shouldn't have done this, they live up there, they dwell, you know, people talk about hell, it's in your freaking head. You've got a hell in your freaking forehead. And the biggest thing is that most people don't realize that everybody else is going for the same thing. You know, like that, you know, we get these thoughts and we get these different things. But the thing in NLP, what they taught was, like, say you have, you know, something, fear, or think of that fear, and then the first thing, how, you know, is it very lifelike? Is it very big? And so if it's very big in your head and very loud, make it very, very quiet and make it very, very far away. And if it's, you know, if it's in full color, make it in black and white. Or unless it's clowns you're scared of, give it a red nose and give it a face, or, you know, so, you know, that person that used to bully you at school or whatnot, you play around with it in your head. And the same can be said, or the flip of what's the same, talk about the heart, you know, go off on a little adventure. Daydreaming is a good thing. We were told as kids, stop daydreaming, you know, stop, you know, and it's actually, no, we were meant to daydream, you're meant to play. It's a very important thing. And is the interesting thing I learned, so through close protection, I did close protection in the 90s, and I've done a lot of stuff interesting stuff with interesting people. So I've worked in the FT 100 and 500, the Financial Times 100, 500 index businesses with millionaires and billionaires. I did subcontract work with through my teachers. I worked with CIA, FBI, and I learned lots of things. I learned that our world is very much like Harry Potter, that there is a world we don't know about going on that we're not talked about, that's not talked to us about, you know, in the mainstream, is that there are businesses out there, there are people out there that use psychics, empaths, remote viewers all the freaking time. There are people, businesses that send curses and blessings to each other all the freaking time. Magic, Einstein said this, and Einstein said this because Nikola Tesla said this. And Nikola, well, I know in Taoism, they said a version of this as well. Magic is science not yet understood. And just think of like the phone that we're on now. 200 years ago, people would think you've got a magic box, you know, like, you know, and or, you know, even the 1980s phones with the handset, you know, I'd be magical with mystery. It's just science, and our energy, the things we do is science to be understood. And it's this thing that, you know, all these things that we were told are woo-woo. Why are you being told they're woo-woo? Why are you being told that? It's a very interesting thing. It's a bit conspiracy, but it's true, but conspiracy. That word, in fact, conspiracy, was actually promoted by the CIA back in the 60s because they wanted to poo-poo people, from stop people from doing focusing on certain things. So they would say, oh, you're conspiracy theorist. It's a bit like saying, don't go near Boggie, he smells. And don't go and don't listen to him because he's mad. Well, that's true. But anyway, the whole idea is that, they put you off. And there's this really interesting thing in society that when a lot of the time you'll find the truth and the lies on the same thing, so this is a white cup with a blue picture, or this is a black cup with a green picture. Well, one of them is a lie and one of them is the truth. What happens is that a lot of people nowadays go, I don't know which one it is. Oh, well, I don't look at the cup. I'm not interested, and they turn off instead of going within and listening to their heart. So this is the thing that you need to do, is that, yes, you're going to hear one person say this is good, and one person say that's a load of hollocks. And you're going to get two conflicting things. And you get that a lot when you look into alternative therapies, look into science. You get this all the freaking time, that one person says it's this, one person is saying that. Your goal, your mission is to start listening here. What does it feel? There's an old Taoist saying, is that whenever you hear anything, listen to your heart. If that information makes you feel expansive, makes you feel grow, makes you feel happy, excited, then that is what you should do. If it makes you feel afraid and nervous or contractive or wants to back away, then you shouldn't do it. It's not a no ever, but it's don't do it right now. So listen, when you listen to information, listen to this, listen to your heart. Does it make you expand? Does it make you contract? That's what you need to go for. And with that same information in mind, think of Qigong. There's a saying in Qigong. Qigong is for everybody, but not everybody thinks they are for Qigong. So there are 10 billion ways to heal yourself. Like there's an old movie, 10 million ways to die, pick one. Well, there's 10 million ways to live. There's 10 million ways to heal. There's 10 million ways to laugh and love. Pick one. Find what works for you. Just because I do this doesn't mean it'll work for you. But you are your own Sifu. You need to find what works for you. But if you sit there and do bugger all, you'll never find it. Over to you, Doc.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Because stop expecting. Expectare means to look out, and start inspecting. Go turn your eyes the other way around, put your hand on your heart and say, who am I really? Ask yourself this at depth. Who am I really in there, and what do I know about myself? And Boggie, you know my story. That's what somebody asked me to do, and it changed my life. Overnight, it transformed the way that my head was working, because it got to, where did you get that idea from, Joseph? And I realized that all the ideas, all the emotions, all the attitudes, all the guiding forces of my life were fed to me by other people. Now, I'm not blaming them, but I was naive. I didn't know. And, if you don't know, you don't know. And that's all there's to it. But then it's almost like a light went on. And my dad always used to say this to me. He said, son, think for yourself and play it by ear. You see those two things, right? Had I known that from an early age, my life would have been totally and utterly different. But in the circumstances that we're here, it's almost like that I picked this sort of difficult challenge, right, for a purpose. And I know what the purpose is. The purpose is also for my soul's evolution, because I see now that we have different bodies. There's physical, there's emotional, there's mental, there's spiritual. And the spiritual to me is not religious. It's all to do with quantum mechanics and quantum physics and different levels and frequencies of energy, and I'm really into subtle energy medicine and how we can go through, we can deeply drop deep within us and get in touch with different streams of energy that contain more information that will be helpful to us. But it's got to be in a sort of I'll say a sacred way, but not religious. sacred to me means that I find my own quiet space, and I make sure that I do that where I'm not interrupted. And basically, I do put my hands on my heart and get a sense of it opening up. And then I sink deep into it. And then I just take any problems or I ask for any information in that sort of neutral, quiet space. And I listen for that still small voice, which is getting louder all the time now. It's almost like shouting instructions to me every single day now is do that, have a look at that, look what's going on over there, you know. And so my head, information's flying into me all the time. And Boggie, in 1987, it was like that then as well. And I didn't know how to handle it emotionally, right? But I've sort of upgraded my emotional processing system. And I know that if I'm feeling disturbed, no matter what the cause, I need to take a step back, not make any decisions in that emotionally disturbed state, because that's fight or flight and very sort of prehistoric thinking, you know. So in that state, everything will be defensive, you know, it'll be reactive rather than what they call proactive. So I know now that when I get a feeling of contraction, in some way my ego is under threat, and I need to breathe it away, step back, create space, look at this sort of the stage of my own life. I call it being objective about my own subjectivity. Have a look at it and see where I've got the obstruction from. And it's almost like it's called freeze frame. You can freeze the frame that's causing the disturbance, see why it's there, and then take necessary action in order to allow the flow to come back again. Over to you, mate.
Yeah, there's a similar version called tuning into the Tao, which is sort of like the Akashic records. That people talk about Akashic records. Now in the West, it's this information that's out there, it's in a library or something. And the tuning in the Tao is it's not out there, it's in here. Yeah, because out there is here, you know, it is. And there's a thing called, and it's sort of the tuning into Tao is the Akashic records, Reiki, and remote viewing. Well, remote viewing was a scientific-based, a military-based procedure to do psychic ability, and it's been around ever since the 50s. The CIA used it and then sort of made it public, saying, "Oh, well, it sort of doesn't really do anything." But there's actually companies that have been doing remote viewing. But the essence of remote viewing is that it's not using your five senses, it's actually looking within, because the quantum field from 1974, the quantum field is that everything is connected to everything else. So everything out there is actually in you. So looking within, you can find that connection. So, you know, the tuning into the Tao is this whole idea is that everything out there is actually a reflection of you, and you are a reflection of everything out there. So you're all interconnected. So when you look within, you'll find the out, you'll find what you need to do, you'll get connected, but you'll also get unlimited amount of energy. Everybody says, Boggie, you know, you're on drugs, you're on cocaine, you know, you're all over the place all the time. It's like, Wuchi Dao, baby, which means absolutely nothing to them, but it means unlimited energy on the outside. So that Wuchi Dao, this spinning ball, is that it's locked into the darkness on the inside is the void, which opens up to the everything, and on the outside is just unlimited energy. So I can tap into constant energy, but I could also, on the inside is that stillness. Hence my name, Boggie, means the balancer between the chaos and the calmness. I can be all over the place, but I have my own center, my own, you know, my own Zen. The Tao is the way, and Chan or Zen is that focus. So there's a focus inside and the Tao on the outside, but I can see all that chaos and I find my own personal way. And that's what I sort of want to teach and want to try to help people to find is Qigongs give you energy to find your own Tao, to find your own way. But the ultimate thing is whether it's tuning in the Tao, whether you call it banana, something, doesn't matter. It's about listening to within, listening to yourself, because you are your own creator. You are both the masculine, the feminine, and the sacred child. Everything in the universe is inside you. And you can see that however you see it. But the thing is that you are your own Sifu, you are your own guide, but you have to shut up to listen. You have to be quiet enough to listen. And it means creating that stillness, however you do it. Because the crazy thing is, or meditation means focus on one thing and forget everything else. You can meditate through swimming. You can meditate through fishing. You can meditate through sewing, or cooking, or 10,000 other different things. Qigong is energy exercises, is creating energy, more energy than it takes to do it. The same with Qigong, you can turn everything into a Qigong. So everything can be a Qigong, everything can be a meditation. And then yoga, stretching the body, releasing the toxins from your body, stretch the body, you stretch the mind, you stretch the spirit. So for me, Qigong, energy exercise, Neigong, Taoist yoga or stretching, Shenggong, Taoist meditation or just meditation. They are the 3, the 6, the 9 for me, or at least partly. They are the thing I do every single day. And then, like Doc, sort of just tuning into that Tao, tuning in to the yogi inside, and just tuning in, just letting yourself go with that flow. Because it happens to me a lot. People go, "How did you know to do that?" I don't know. That it's Winnie the Pooh or Winnie the Bog. I was just going with the flow. I just do what needs to be done, and we're meant to be like that. We're meant to actually just go with that flow. This gets in the way. You need to just center, and that's what they sort of mean by the center. Literally, our center, pretty much where your heart is. So finding center is finding a way of connecting into yourself, which is the universe. To find what's out there, you need to look in. Over to you, Doc.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, there's lower heart and higher heart in my understanding, the way I explain things. And there's 7 chakras as well, 7 major spinal chakras, although there are millions of chakras but there are 7 major spinal chakras that correspond, if you like, to the 7 major endocrine glands, So we got red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So those there are all along with the one wave, that they're just at different frequencies, And remind me to talk about magnetism, really, because we talk a lot about an electromagnetism, but I think that what happens is it's known in the studies that I've learned. It's known that the masculine is electric and the feminine is magnetic, right? And what's happening now is there's more and more charismatic magnetism coming and sweeping across the planet. Now, some people who are listening will understand this, but what it is really, the more that you open the heart, the more of a magnetic effect. So this is not something that we need to force, like electrically. We need to actually open up. And this is really the true secret of attraction, is that the more that you open the heart, the more that the scene will be set for your soul to evolve. You don't have to do it. All you have to do is open your heart, right, and allow the next thing to come in, and it will be guided by a positive and a beneficial force for your own development, And all these challenges that come in that people say, they're not being done to us. They're being presented for us in order that we stop. We almost act, I see like this, the Jason and the Argonauts, where they had the 2 gods, the masculine and feminine gods, right? They were having a go with each other all the time, and the feminine was saying, Jason, the owl fella's asleep. Why don't you turn left instead of going right? So if you listen into that soothing, nurturing voice, the feminine aspect, which, by the way, is associated with the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is to do with the rest and digest response, and it's very, very influential in the region of the gut. And so what we eat, right, will send information back to our head, and it will either be positive or negative. That's why it's a systems approach, Boggie, as you know, that everything's connected. Everything's connected. Anyway, the major organs, first one, red, right, that's to do with primary physical security, and it's associated with the adrenal glands. And any nefarious organizations, in order to block the free flow of energy, right, So in order to block that, right, they would put out more and more fear-inducing messages. Yeah. Now, if you believe them, this is where you come in before. If you open the heart, it's like a bollocks bullshit detector. You know, you can stick all the information in and say, which is true? Is that true? And you get, you go, okay, chuck that one out. What about that one? Ooh, go with that one, you see. This is where, in my opinion, true discernment comes from. Does it smell fishy? Yes. Hang on, put it in my heart. Shall I go with this? Ooh, yeah, go with it. Shall I go with this? And that's how I live my life now. Do I make mistakes? Of course, because I'm just trying to learn like everybody else. But you know what, Boggie? Since I've dispensed with me head, right, as I say, metaphorically decapitated myself, I've taken my head, throw it away, and gone with the guidance of my heart, right? My life has changed dramatically, you know, and it's becoming more and more refined now. It's like the updated version of the TomTom, you know, the navigation system. I seem to get information much longer before things happen now. So it's almost like my journey is becoming smoother, you know, but it's taken a lot of practice. You know, I go and, you know, they call me the holy doctor in the NHS because I used to spend a lot of time in the hospital chapels, only because nobody was ever in there. It was a quiet place, always nice and comfortable, and I could go and sit there and escape for an hour in deep meditation, you know. They used to think it was holy. Couldn't be further from the truth, let me tell you, you know. So how are we doing for time here? Let me have a look. Okay, we've got 10 minutes left. Could you possibly, well, let me just do this bit first. Okay, so the chakras, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, blah, blah, blah. So the red adrenal glands, orange are the gonads, yes, and the females do have gonads too. So they're your testicles and your ovaries, and if you've got a pair of them or bits and pieces all mixed up, so be it. But that's the next hormonal system that comes online. Now, what tends to happen is in fear, people actually just work off those two chakras, right? And that's why there can be all sorts of relationship and emotional closeness problems as well. There's loads here. The next one's the solar plexus. It's associated with the pancreas, and it's associated with also a hormone called oxytocin, which is the bonding and the intimacy hormone. You know, it's the one that's massive at childbirth, right? In the placenta, there's a lot contained there. So lots and lots of people are going back to the fact that they retain the placenta, and not only do they hug the child, but they hug the placenta as well, because they get a big, massive sort of bonding thing that's supposed to happen naturally. Anyway, I digress. Now, the heart is the fourth chakra. It's the middle one of the seven, obviously. Okay. And if you take it to 3.9, no, 3.5, 3.49, right? There's an opportunity at 3.49 to either break through to the higher heart, but if you're still hanging on to your 3D perspective, all you'll do basically is loop round again and be like in Groundhog Day. And you'll come to a point where you get to the end of your thinking and you start to become frustrated, angry, miserable, irritable, discontented, right? That's a really great place to be. Because if you can just sit, turn into your heart and almost say to your heart, please show me what I need to do next. It's like a magic thing happens if you get it right. If you sit quiet long enough, it's almost like a portal or a gate opens up and you almost get sucked into, right, the higher heart. And that's what I believe the crucifixion process is. And then from that point, that's the start of your spiritual journey then, where you start to become more connected, if you like, with your divine intelligence then, you know. And so we get then to the thyroid gland at the throat. So if you've been a person who's afraid to speak out for yourself, you'll find yourself, I mean, I was like, believe it or not, I was like Boggie as a child. I wouldn't say boo to a goose, you know, but try and stop us now. It's absolutely impossible. So by opening up the throat as like a musical instrument, starting to play it better, make it open, say what you mean what you say, and start expressing who you really are. And then we get up then to the pituitary gland here, you know, and that's called the master gland really. And what that does is it sends, based upon all the signals that we're picking up, it will send information via the nervous system to all the glands. But finally, the crown chakra. Yes, there are vestigial remains of optic fiber, right? So this is the third eye, and it's associated with the pineal. Well, I've mentioned that. Melatonin as well, that's the hormone. That's why lots of people take melatonin, because it's also associated with time and the dimensions of time as well. And there's something there, there's two lobes of it called the suprachiasmatic nuclei, and they're all to do with biorhythms and cosmic rhythms and stuff like that. And most of us are completely out of whack with our own natural biorhythms. So if you start to do more and more deep meditation and completely let go, you will automatically reset to what's natural for you. I know we've covered a lot of stuff here tonight, but the whole point about this is, I would just say simply is, it's learning to let go. And when you feel emotionally reaction, don't try and analyze it, just let it go, sink deep into your heart and just say, can you please give me what I need in order to reset the balance? And then see how you get on. So Boggie, all I'm talking about really is, can you please, before we go, maybe talk about the different frequencies of maybe Jing, Qi, Shen, different sort of frequencies of spiritual energy, and what they correspond to, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks.
All right, very quickly though, what I'll just say is that a big lesson for me, a big lesson to learn is that bad things that happen aren't bad things in your life. That you know, when in Taoism you start to analyze everything that happened in the past, you start realizing that what you thought was bad, you know, like something breaking up, or you know, something happening, something moving on, you suddenly realize that that happens for other things to happen, or you learn from those situations. So bad things in your life aren't actually bad things, you know. Even like we sort of said about listening to heart, and do I still make mistakes? But it's not actually a mistake, because you know, first, you know, I listened to my intuition and it led me down the wrong path. But then when you actually look at what happened, you realize that you actually learned from that, or you needed that from that you actually gain information or knowledge. So this interesting thing, this real oxymoron of a thing, is bad things are bad. There is no good or bad, it just is. And for me, I've got to a point where life is just about, you know, it's not a game of win or lose. It's not a game of good or bad. It's actually about experience. It's about learning and growing from it. Just really throw that one in. So you had the Qi, the Jing, and the Shen in Taoist philosophy. In Qi, Jing, Shen. So you have the 7 chakras. And then you have 3 dantians. Now, the chakras are like turbines. Like in the ancient knowledge, you had the meridians, the chakras, the aura, the Merkaba, the Torah field, or the flower life, and then the dantians. Now, the chakras are like the turbines, the emotional turbines of the body. They do affect the physical body as well, but they mainly affect the emotional body. You have the meridians, which are like the ley lines of the earth, the meridians that run through your body. They affect mainly the physical body, but they do have some effect on the emotional and the spiritual. And then you have the aura, and the aura is like the energy that vibrates out. Now, it can affect the emotional and the physical, but its main effect is on the spiritual. Now, the dantians actually sort of fuel the body. They are the power cells. So, Qi is said to be physical vitality. Now, in the Taoist system, Qi is seen a lot by red. The color red can represent Qi, physical vitality. So it affects your physical health. And then you have Jing, which is emotional vitality. So, and that is normally seen as green. So the green Tara or Kuan Yin, the Jade Princess, is green. So it's the green vitality, hence why the chakra, middle chakra, is green. The heart chakra is green. Then you have Shen, which tends to be seen as a purple color, and that is spiritual vitality. And so you can sort of see it's free fuels, like sort of like, the oil in your car or the petrol in your car, the oil in the car and the water, or maybe the electrics nowadays. But the whole idea is these free fuels fill your body and stimulate your body. And the dantians store these fuels. Now, when you're full of, like, say, Shen, you'll flow with your Tao. You'll have all those connections with the universe. You'll feel those connections. But when you're Shen, when you're lacking Shen, you'll actually, struggle to think clearly. For me, I'm a bit dyslexic. When I'm lacking in Shen, I have dyslexic fog. The fog comes in. I can't remember my name or what a turnip is, and I struggle with words. So Shen is the spiritual connection. So when you're full of Shen, you can really connect with the universe and connect with things. When you're full of Jing, you're abundantly happy. You flow. But if you're sad, you'll be sad, or but you express yourself in the way you need to. But when you're lacking in Jing, you'll struggle with your emotions. You'll be stuck in ruts, and you'll be doing things over and over again emotionally. And then Qi is physical vitality. When you're full of Qi, you're like Bruce Lee or Hong Kong Fooey or Kung Fu Panda. You're all over the place. You've got loads of energy, and people would think you're on drugs, but you're full of vitality. And when you're lacking in Qi, you could be 20 years old, but you'll feel 102. You could be tired, lethargic, and so Qi, Jing, and Shen are these different qualities of fuel, or qualities of vitality: physical vitality, emotional vitality, and spiritual vitality. Now, the dantians is a thing that certain people will say, this dantian has this and this dantian has this. And I was taught a certain way. My teachers came from Udang or Wudang Mountain, and they were taught in a very particular way. And my way seems to contradict quite a few teachers. But I always say to my students, do this stuff, focus on it. Which one feels better to you? If it's that one, go and do that. If it's this one, go and do this. But don't listen to this, listen to this. Do what feels best. But you could just know that Qi, Jing, and Shen exists and start focusing on the physical vitality. Draw in, because what you focus on grows. Draw in more physical vitality. Draw it into the universe, like, be a magnet. We're talking about magnetism. Be a magnet and draw it in. The same with Jing, emotional vitality. The same with Shen, spiritual vitality. But draw these energies in. If you think, oh, I'm old, I'm past it, there's nobody can help me, you'll be right. If you think, I will always have the energy I need, or always have the abundance I need, you'll be right. Because placebo and nocebo says, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, 80% of the time or more, you are right. Over to you, Doc.
Fantastic. Absolutely marvelous. I've really loved every second of this tonight. We seem to be on form at the moment. I'm just approaching 17 years of age, right, in my mind. I'm full of vitality. It gets me into trouble all the time, and I think I'll stay here because I'm enjoying it. And, people can't understand my sense of humor sometimes. And you know what? Well, you can't win them all. Boggie, I love you, mate, and thanks very much. So do us a favor when you get a chance, put some of your links up on the, I'll put it up on YouTube. If you put some of your links up, what you want, and then people can they get in touch with you through your links and stuff like that? Great.
Yeah,
because I think you're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and every other every other thing.
I'm a bit of a pimp. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, great. So thanks very much, and hopefully we can have another one of these in maybe a month's time or something like that. And thanks, everybody. I hope you got something from that. And lots of love to you all, and speak to you next time. Thanks, Boggie.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.